Hello. Thanks very much for having me along today to speak on the topic of leadership. It's a topic that's close to my heart, and it's one that I think is frequently paid lip service. I wonder if at work you've ever felt undervalued, undermined, or disempowered. Sadly, when I generally ask that question, I get 100% response, yes. And I find this so disheartening. If you could take yourself back to one of those occasions when you were undervalued, undermined, etc., I wonder what sort of emotions you would have felt. I'm going to guess frustration, anger and stress. I wonder then, if they were the emotions you were feeling, is it possible you were being an effective worker? Is it possible that your team was effective? I doubt it. And this is all the result of poor leadership, and it really needn't be that way. Now, I spent over 3 decades in the Navy. My father spent 4 decades in the Navy, and his father died in a World War II battle, defending and protecting our nation. Dad's great-great-grandfather was the first person born in this land to return to the United Kingdom to join the Royal Navy, where he had a distinguished career. And that man's father was a Royal Marine Redcoat who landed here in Sydney Cove with Arthur Phillip in 1788. So whatever it is flowing through my veins, a mix of blood, salt water, I'm not sure, I am the result, the product of 7 generations of leadership and influence in this country. I've found since leaving the Navy that in corporate and civilian life, leadership is undervalued, if not frequently completely ignored. Recently, I was talking to the HR director of an investment bank in the city, and I asked her, at what point do you give your senior executives some leadership training? It's a fair question. She said, well, when they get to sort of associate director level, we send them on a 2-day management course. And I found myself thinking, okay, a management course. And I can see why, but managers manage. Managers manage things like KPIs and Gantt charts. They manage processes and frameworks. In fact, managers manage project management plans, while leaders lead people. Leaders lead hearts and aspirations, and they lead people to help them reach their potential. Research shows us some many interesting and compelling examples of leadership. The wonderful Margaret Heffernan, in a TEDx talk that I saw recently, explained in an experiment based on chickens that regardless of how magnificent individual team members are, if the team's not performing with cohesion and a sense of community, there'll be no productivity. And in fact, what happens is the team becomes dysfunctional. That leads to aggression and waste. On the other hand, a well-led team with cohesion, productivity, a sense of community will generate better outcomes. So what we've got here is poor leadership, dysfunction and waste versus good leadership, cohesion, sense of community, productivity. Some years ago during my Navy career, I was a navigator of a warship. Now, a warship at the time is about 130, 140 metres long with deep draft below the waterline. And I had an opportunity to study the leadership behaviours of 2 different captains over the period of about 3 months. Now, let's call them Captain A, or as I like to call him, Captain Crappy, and Captain B, I called him Captain My Hero. I got to observe these 2 gentlemen over, as I say, about 3 months. And because I was a bit of a leadership sponge, I was really taking note of the way they behaved and the impact of their behaviour on me and others. Now, the situation I got to observe these 2 captains in was quite specific. We had to navigate the ship around Sydney Harbour in a very tight bit of the harbour where there are rocks and water and yachts and tidal streams and wind. It's difficult. And we have to go there because there's an array on the seabed that measures our ship's magnetic signature. And this is important in the instance when we go into hostile waters where there are magnetic mines that are programmed to detonate when a big bit of steel goes over the top. So we have to be in a very specific bit of the harbour, and it's tight. To get through the day, Navy gives us a tugboat for the entire day to help us with some of the tight turns. So on the first occasion, with Captain Crappy, there he was in his chair, and my job as the navigator is to make sure we get through this exercise safely. So we get to the very first turn, and it's pretty tight. I give the orders to turn the ship, and then I start talking to the tug because I'm going to use the tug. So I'm on the radio. Dear tug, this is the warship. I'd like you now to come in and start helping by pushing my bow around to port, and that was about as far as I got. Captain Crappy was out of his chair. "What are you doing, navigator? What are you doing with the tug?" And I said, "Oh, well, so it would be prudent, surely, to use the tug to help us in these turns. It's pretty tight." He said, "No, navigator, you may not know how to drive the ship, but I've been in the ship for 18 months. I know how to drive it. And if you use the tug to help us, you will make me look like an idiot." Wow. So how do you think I felt? Strangely, undervalued, undermined, disempowered. But importantly, what I got to observe in the team was even more important. I saw chins drop, chests recede, I saw sense of humour dry up, and most importantly, I saw all the good ideas stop emerging. People had lost their courage. Now, 12 weeks later, we had a new captain. Captain My Hero had joined. And because we'd been pretty slow doing the magnetic measuring the first time, because we were slow in the turns, because we didn't use the tug, we had to do it again. This time we've got Captain My Hero in the chair. It's exactly the same team, same navigator, same conditions, same tide, same currents, same everything, same tug. On this occasion, we get to the first turn. And again, I give the orders to the ship to start the turn. And then, because I'm a quick learner and I'm a bit gun shy, I don't use the tug. And this time, Captain My Hero says, "Navigator, what are your intentions with the tug?" I said, "Oh, sir, we know how to drive our ship. We don't need help from a tug." And he said, "Well, I acknowledge that you're pretty good driving the ship, but I'm new here and I learn something every day. And anyway, the tug's going to be here all day. Let's use him. And he's got an ego, and then he'll feel included." I thought, "Oh, terrific." And then the captain said, "And when you finish giving your instructions to the tug, I'd like to have a chat to the tug master." So I handed the captain the radio, and I overheard a conversation that went something like, "Tug master, this is the captain of the warship. Thanks very much for coming out today and helping us. I'm really going to need your help, and you'll probably help me stay off the rocks, which is fantastic." And he said, "I wonder if at lunchtime when I anchor the ship, would you mind coming alongside me and come up and have a sandwich with the navigator and myself? We can have a chat about how we in the ship could better use you and your tug and your expertise to our advantage." I'm thinking, wow, this is fantastic. And then Captain My Hero was really on a roll. And he said, "And in the afternoon, would you mind if I put a couple of junior officers in your tug so they can see how this whole thing looks from a completely different perspective?" Well, there you go. You see, that's the difference. How did I feel that day? As a result of Captain My Hero's behaviours, I felt empowered. I was proud. I was proud of the way my ship was being represented. I felt valued. But again, importantly, what did I see in the team? I saw chins up. I saw chests out. I heard people taking the mick out of each other. And really importantly, an abundance of good ideas. People suddenly felt a bit more courageous to offer an opinion, which meant that if something was going wrong, they were more likely to stick their hand up instead of just standing into danger. So I learnt some salutary lessons in that 12 weeks watching Captain Crappy and Captain My Hero. Sadly, we all know far too many versions of Captain Crappy and not enough versions of Captain My Hero. Ultimately, we'd start the leadership conversation early in corporate life, but it's never too late. People should never be made to feel undervalued and undermined. They should feel inspired, empowered and motivated to act and think in their most courageous manner. They should be giving and receiving robust, authentic, constructive feedback. And they should be seeking out ways to improve their own performance and that of their team. This is what terrific leadership will do for individuals and for teams. Leadership doesn't happen by accident. It's time for you to invest in yourself and your leaders so that they can start to lead with character and confidence to generate cohesion, accountability and improved performance. Thank you very much.